guns are blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet.
Look, special advisor on religious matters to Trump. I know we met in India. And what I have in heart, look at it here on ground. Special advisor to Trump. Now, please tell Trump to save our life in Nigeria. He has been building to settle peace between Israel and also Hamas. Now, his attention, I'm calling the attention to Nigeria. They are killing Christians in Nigeria, massacre Christians. If they say they kill Muslims, Muslims are being killed. By who? By Muslims. When it comes to saying the truth with facts on the ground, look at the facts. The president of Khan in Nigeria denied.
This is a mass burial. 10 people were killed in October in a coordinated attack. It's one of several such burials this year. A report by the International Society for Civil Liberties and the Rule of Law claims that more than 7,000...
Could be. I mean, a lot of things I envisage, a lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world, very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
On Christmas night, U.S. officials releasing video of a strike on ISIS terrorists in Nigeria. U.S. Africa Command confirms the strikes were carried out in coordination with Nigerian authorities.
Donald J. Trump. Tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing, primarily innocent Christians, at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. I have previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay, and tonight there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
Justice delivered. His message was explicit.
Saying publicly that at least 50,000 Christians have been murdered since 2009. If you're saying that number is wildly exaggerated, what is the number?
102, 177, number injured 98, number abducted 7. Okay, so we are not hiding any facts. But
we're talking about between 50,000 and 100,000 Christians have been slaughtered in Nigeria since 2009. And we did have a designation on them in the first Trump administration as a country of particular concern. The Biden administration took that off because the killing, according to them, was happening because of land disputes, and climate change was the culprit in this, which it's hard to believe that that's even a justification. This is a genocide that's been going on by Islamic terrorist organizations. This designation by President Trump, and I just want to take 2 seconds. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you so very much, because this is going to end up saving lives. Thank you for this designation. And I think this is going to make a huge difference. And we're going to get right to work on this and get to the bottom of what's happening and give President Trump a full menu of options that we can use to try to stop these killings. That they were going to receive arms and training from the United States to go kill and stop Boko Haram. They have not been doing that. They have not been stopping these Islamic terrorists, and in my view, have been collaborating and coordinating, and at least, at minimum, have just been turning a blind eye to it in Nigeria. So now that's going to stop. But this menu of options also includes the ability of the administration now to use targeted sanctions against entities within Nigeria itself, suspend economic cooperation. There's a whole list of options in here that I think is really going to have a dramatic effect in reducing the killings in Nigeria.
While in Benue, I met with dozens of Christians who were driven from their homes and subjected to horrific violence and now live in IDP camps. They told harrowing stories that will remain with me for the rest of my life. One woman was forced to watch as they killed her husband and 5 children. She and her unborn child barely escaped. Another woman's family was murdered in front of her and her baby was ripped from her womb. One man's family was hacked to death in front of his eyes and his arm was permanently mangled. There are more than 600,000 Christians in IDP camps in Benue State alone. These Christians should be able to live in their ancestral homeland without fear of genocidal Fulani.
But clearly a lot of Christian churches have been attacked. So have a lot of mosques where it is believed that the people who are, observing their faith there are too moderate for the Islamists. So it seems like the Islamist groups like Boko Haram, like ISIS, are targeting pretty much anybody that they don't agree with, be that moderate Muslims or Christians. Is this not, as the foreign minister is putting forward, a case of it's not just Christians being targeted and persecuted, it's also moderate Muslims, and that there's a general wider problem with Islamist terrorism?
Well, there's definitely a problem with Islamist terrorism, but just because Muslims are being murdered, it does not negate the fact that there is a targeted ethnic cleansing of Christian Nigerians. One does not negate the other. What we can conclude from this is that there is definitely an Islamist problem. Now, one thing that the Nigerian minister is purposefully forgetting to put out there is that it's not just Boko Haram, it's also the Fulani militants. Not a lot of people know about the Fulani militants. The Fulani Islamists are also the ones who are generally targeting the Christian Nigerians, especially in the Plateau Belt. And I've had several Nigerian Christians come on and speak about this. In fact, I have seen videos where you have the Fulani militants, on their motorcycles with machetes. They're driving through various towns, and you have the Nigerian military, who's supposed to prevent them from going. They're getting orders to stand down and allow the Fulani militants to go through. Again, Piers, the loss of life is horrible. But as you can tell from the minister, he's avoiding questions. He's avoiding eye contact. Instead of actually answering the questions, he's focusing more on trying to attack me and trying to, go after me because I'm not as familiar with the Constitution. I don't need to be familiar with the Constitution of Nigeria to understand that, over 50,000 Christians have been murdered since 2009. I don't have to be familiar with the Constitution of Nigeria to know that when someone yells Allahu Akbar before they massacre 200 Christians and burn Christian churches, that's not just banditry, that's jihad. And I think the reason that the foreign minister does not want to admit this is because they are somehow complicit in this. And, he is purposely saying that he is willfully ignorant, because how could the Nigerian government not know if those people who have been murdered are Christian or Muslim? The reason that he's avoiding saying that is because if they actually put out formal numbers about the numbers of Christians targeted and murdered, then they will have to admit that there is a genocide. They don't want to admit that there's a genocide, but that's exactly what's happening, and I'm glad President Trump and others are calling it out.
Trouble. I've performed several genocide burial, more than 70 times. Imagine some of the graves are 501 people killed in one night in Dogona Hawa, village named Gemburu. The Nigerian government downplayed that one because the Islamic are controlling the government.
So the Nigerian government, if I may just jump in there, the Nigerian government has vehemently denied there is a genocide of Christians in Nigeria. Further, they say a lot of Muslims have also been killed by the likes of Boko Haram for being too moderate, and that therefore the issue of Islamists killing people is not restricted just to Christians, but also to moderate Muslims. What do you say to that?
So let me give you the background of what happened. This is the background with initial fact finding. They created Boko Haram by many that are in hierarchy of the government to remove Goodluck, who is a Christian. This is what happened. They steered them. They caused riot every village. And the people run away, they were relocated. And their target is to kill the Christian. Because Goodluck is a Christian. That's why Goodluck says, my blood is not worthy for other people to die. He voluntarily and submit and accept result even before it was finished counting. He knows the danger. Had it been Goodluck announced the true result of the election, many Christians in the north will go into the grave. Because it was really declared a jihad. In Borno, they will enter village on Sunday. They will meet people in the church and they will lock the church building with Christian inside. Anybody that is found outside, they will order him to go in. They lock the church. They put Gatling. They set the church building ablaze. All Christians that were inside, including the pastor, the elders, and everybody, were burned to death. This is the report that they will never tell. They move to other village. They will find people in the church. They will bring them out and separate male and female. And all the male, they will assemble them for slaughtering. They will slaughter all of them, including the old, the youth, and everybody. And for the female, they will select the female for themselves and divide it among themselves. Sexual harassment will take place.
Reverend Dashmu, if I could ask you,
if
I could ask you, what is your message to Donald Trump? Because he was very moved by your words. What is your message to him?
My message to Donald Trump should never stop what he's doing, because what he's doing is not his own. Showing concern to Nigerian Christians, it tallies with Exodus chapter 3, verse 7. As God showed concern to Egypt, to Israel in Egypt, the Hebrews, so he has to show concern to us. Let me tell you, there's a genocide in Nigeria. And when it comes, it's not going to be us alone. It's going to help the Muslims. When the Christians in the far north were able to escape to the Middle Belt, what will they left? You hear them saying Muslims are also killed. By who? By Muslims. Because of set differences. Some were trained in Saudi Arabia. Some were trained in Afghanistan. Some were trained in Iran. All of them have different background of belief. They brought it into Nigeria. After there was no Christian in the close by to kill, the blood of innocent Christians that have killed is fighting them. Then they went into fighting each other. The sect of Izala are fighting the Sunni, fighting the Derika. That's why they'll meet them in the mosque and kill them, chanting Allahu Akbar, because of different belief in Islam. And this thing has not been common.
It has been happening right from the time of Muhammad. Jihad. Sometime at a point, it will end up seeing same people of same faith killing each other. Like today, the ISWAP and the Boko Haram were busy killing each other.
The sound of gunshots rang out during a religious service. Filmed by cameras broadcasting it live, it shows armed men storming the building and seizing the belongings of worshippers. 2 people died in the attack and others were abducted.
In the Nigerian government to deny what you and your team have been reporting. But you just sent me videos of another mass burial of Christians in Nigeria. What are these videos that we're looking at right now?
Yeah, so those videos are actually from different incidences. Of course, just 2 months ago, we had an incident wherein more than 27 Christians were slaughtered just 15 miles west of Jos, the capital of Plateau State. And of course, that population included 11 children below the ages of 7, including a 2-month-old. The last time we had an interview regarding that particular incident, I reported that there was a 3-year-old that was killed. But no, that wasn't the youngest of the victims. There was a 3-month-old, there was a 2-month-old, there was an 8-month-old, there was a 1-year-old, there were 2 years old. Actually, the oldest actually of the 11 children that comprised or that made up the 27 death toll, the 27 victims were below the ages of 7. And like you said, the Nigerian government is trying really hard, is struggling, I would say, to deny what has been happening. But what they cannot deny is the reality, the facts, the evidences, right? So you can deny that Christians are not being killed, but locations don't lie. The mass graves don't lie. Christians will not go and gather to bury empty caskets or to just wrap some substance, maybe wood or something in white fabric just to put on the ground and just claim that is an instance of genocide. You cannot deny that. You cannot deny the fact that there are IDP camps, refugee camps scattered across the middle belt of Nigeria and every other part of Nigeria. What they have been claiming as mere act of terrorism is what they have been using. That is the issue of Boko Haram and ISIS terrorism, which is concentrated in the Northeast. They have, in the past 20 to 25 or 30 years, tried to prove or show to the world that this is the only problem that Nigeria has. But again, while Boko Haram and ISIS is killing Christians and nominal Muslims, chiefly those who do not support their own version, their radical version of Islam, and those who have attempted, to provide a refuge to shield Christians who were on the verge of being slaughtered by these terrorists. They try to show that as the only problem that Nigeria is facing, and because of the fact that a few other Muslims are also being killed by those terrorists, it therefore qualifies as just a mere act of terrorism or mere act of criminality. But then the primary target in all of these areas, the primary targets in the northeast, in the northwest, in the central region, and the in the southern region is always Christians. You only have nominal Muslims or liberal Muslims, what we call the moderate Muslims, being targeted. When the Christian targets are completely eliminated and there are no more Christians to target, or the Muslim victims have been found to be, quote unquote, collaborating with Christians or soldiers, or even providing information to shoulder. So, the Christian victims on how to escape or survive, or perhaps they openly refuse to adhere to their own radical version of Islam. But the primary targets and the largest chunk of the victims of the ongoing terrorism in Nigeria have been Christians. And this has spanned several years. when we say 60 to 70,000 Christians have been slaughtered in the last 2 decades, this is just a conservative estimate. Those are just the numbers, the victims that have been identified and possibly given a burial, like you have in those videos that I shared with you. The majority of the victims of these massacres never get reported. And of course, the Nigerian government has a way of, just hiding the reality on the ground. Whenever an issue happens or an attack happens, unless it gives, it has cornered, intimidated the press, it has also bought a lot of them. And so the Nigerian media cannot be trusted to report this. And so usually the Nigerian government has to issue a press statement, giving its own narrative, which it usually carries words like farmer herders clashes, communal conflicts, and all of that. And usually, if it doesn't give that press statement or address the press or call for a news conference, the event does not exist. And usually, the Nigerian authorities will not address the press until the death toll is as high as 100, 200, which cannot be denied because, of course, the international community is watching and the international media is also paying attention. The actual death toll from the road slaughter that ensued 2 days ago on the 8th of October 2025 has been estimated to be more than 10, with at least 2 victims still unaccounted for. But that does not even include victims of other massacres that had occurred, for other attacks that had occurred between Sunday and Wednesday, which were more than 6 actually that I have confirmed, right? So, but as of yesterday, I only witnessed the burial of 8 victims, right? So, but we fear, and based on available reports, the number could be more than 10, possibly more than 12 from the road slaughter.
Gunmen have kidnapped 25 people and killed a senior teacher at a girls' school in northwestern Nigeria. Police deployed to the scene in Kebbi State after the attackers had already left. Northern Nigeria has seen a series of similar abductions. The kidnapping of 276 schoolgirls a decade ago caused international outrage. The heavily armed criminal gangs known as bandits also raid villages, steal cattle, and carry out kidnappings and killings. DW's Uwais Idris in Abuja told me more about these abductions.
Well, these abductors, these terrorists, stormed the school around 3:30 a.m. this morning, firing sporadically in that government secondary school, Maga, a border town between Kebbi and Zamfara State. A lot of girls were injured because they were trying to run away from the gunmen. They abducted 25 female students. They killed the vice principal and they killed 1 guard. The number might be more than this. Up till now, nobody has claimed responsibility of this attack, but so many people that witnessed the attack within the school said these are not bandits that normally conduct their own operation around that area. It looks like the Lakurawa terrorists because of the number of the attackers and then the arms they use, heavily arms that they used in this attack. Number 2 is the continuation of kidnapping for ransom. After several days, they will now contact, the government will say, oh, we are going to free these children, and then ransom will have to be paid.
I know that there is a history of children being abducted, particularly in northern Nigeria. We think about the schoolgirls back in 2014 from Chibok. I'm wondering, what is the government doing to bring these girls home and to prevent further attacks like this?
Schools are regularly targeted in these attacks. On Friday, more than 200 students, all girls and their teachers, were kidnapped from a Catholic school in the west of the country, according to a local association. This young woman's sister miraculously managed to escape.
It's traumatic. Like my mom, I don't think she's getting herself, because even when my sister escaped this morning, when the whole thing happened this morning, she was like a guinea. Last year, my mom and my brother, my senior brother, they were kidnapped last year. And guess what? We called the security, we called the police, and what they said was there's nothing they can do. Last year. We paid a huge amount of money to get them out.
No group has claimed responsibility for these abductions, but mass kidnappings have become commonplace, particularly since the kidnapping of nearly 300 schoolgirls in Chibok in 2014 by jihadist militant group Boko Haram. Faced with the intensification of attacks in recent days, the authorities have announced the closure of schools in several regions